pretty sure we all know what it is to completely foul up, to make a complete mess of a situation or a relationship and be left wondering just what on earth happened. How could I have done that? And perhaps even worse, how am I ever going to fix it? I found myself reflecting around Easter about someone who definitely must have been feeling like that. Well, I regularly reflect on this person because I suspect he and I share some particular similarities. He was a larger than life character, quick to speak, ready to take on challenges, and sadly ready to see his world come crashing down as he messed up. Life was never dull with him around, and somehow or other, I have a soft spot for this guy called Peter. The events around Easter must have been devastating for him, and I can only imagine after he had denied Jesus so publicly, he has to have thought there could be no way back, that this time he has totally blown it. There's a part of his story right after the Easter events that intrigues me because something very similar had happened to Peter before. This story is recorded for us in John chapter 21, but I want to read what happened the first time Peter had an experience like this. And we find it in Luke chapter 5. Here's what we read. One day, as Jesus was standing by the lake of Gennesaret, the people were crowding around him and listening to the word of God. He saw at the water's edge two boats, left there by the fishermen, who were washing their nets. He got into one of the boats, the one belonging to Simon, and asked him to put out a little from the shore. Then he sat down and taught the people from the boat. When he had finished speaking, he said to Simon, "Put out into deep water and let down the nets for a catch." Simon answered, "Master, we've worked hard all night and haven't caught anything. But because you say so, I will let down the nets." When they had done so, they caught such a large number of fish that their nets began to break. So they signaled their partners in the other boat to come and help them. And they came and filled both boats so full that they began to sink. When Simon Peter saw this, he fell at Jesus' knees and said, "Go away from me, Lord. I am a sinful man." In the story that John recounts, a similar thing happens. Only this time Jesus was on the shore and the disciples didn't know it was him. When he told them to try the other side, the penny still didn't drop. You get the sense that they were almost on autopilot, still struggling to understand what had happened. But when the net was again full of fish, John realized. He shouted, "It's the Lord!" And as soon as he heard that, Peter was out of the boat like a shot. In the first story, Peter is so awestruck that he demands Jesus go away. He basically says, "You're too holy. I can't be near you. I'm too evil." This second story is not long after Peter has really messed up, cursing and swearing that he didn't even know Jesus. And yet, with that failure still looming large in his mind, Peter doesn't tell Jesus to go. Intriguingly, he legs it from the boat to the shore. He can't get to Jesus quickly enough. So what has changed? Is Jesus not holy anymore? Or has Peter decided he's not sinful anymore? I'm sure it's not that, because Peter is painfully aware of his failure. So what has made the difference? Well, here's what I think. Peter has come to realize that the only place you can take your failure is to Jesus. That's the heart of the Christian message. It's not that Christians are better than everyone else. Real Christianity is for those who realize they've messed up, but who know the only safe place they can take their mess is to Jesus. Jesus had another disciple who failed him badly. He betrayed him, in fact, Judas. And unfortunately, confronted with what he had done, his response was to run away and end his own life. He couldn't cope with the failure. And really, the only difference between Peter and Judas is that one of them knew where to run. It wouldn't be Peter's last mistake. And for us, it's the same. I will keep struggling with my own failures as long as life lasts. But I know that each time I do go wrong, the safest place I can take my mistakes is to Jesus, the one who lived and died and rose again to deal with all of my mess. The whole history of the Christian faith is one of a God ready and willing to listen, to restore, to deal with our mistakes, and to give us a life with Him that we could never imagine would be so good. There are so many sad stories today of people who feel that their past marks them down as a failure, that they will never amount to anything. But the heart of the Christian gospel is that it doesn't matter where we've come from, what's in our past. It's about where we're going from now. We can break free from what we feel has overshadowed us and realize that God has a future for us, not just in some distant eternity, but right now. We are not our past. God's love is stronger than our failure, even though we may have chosen the Peter path perhaps many times, following one day, looking like we've never met Jesus the next. And yet still, He holds out His offer of forgiveness to us. The only safe place I can go with my failure is to Jesus.